Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to JJ's PC Build. You know it is JJ with you once again. If this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, welcome to the family. Welcome to JJ's PC Builds. And my veteran subscribers, as always, much love to you for all that you do, helping support the channel. Now, today we're going to talk about the 7600 XT. We're going to go get some benchmarks for y'all, and we're going to discuss it and give you my thoughts, and then let you know what is really going on and what I think is a good deal or bad. So let's go ahead and just get right to it. And what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the action screen so that way we can find out what information we find. Alrighty, we're back on TechSpot.com. Guess what? You know the reason why I'm coming to TechSpot.com is because nobody really gives them, the recognition and everything else. And, have a look. I mean, seriously, have a look at their test results and everything else. They're not that bad. I mean, they're really good. And make sure you put a shout out to them and give them some love and give them a thumbs up on everything because they're doing a hell of a job. So, with them putting the information out there for reviewers to use, I think that's pretty much awesome. So, make sure you give them a shout out. Let's go ahead and just jump right down into the 7600 XT review from TechSpot. Even though that I didn't get a 7600 XT, we can still do the review. So let's go ahead and just jump right down to it and see what's cooking. Benchmarks. And we're going to see what they benchmarked with. That's going to be for our test, we're using a Ryzen 7 7800X 3D test system with 32 gigabytes of DDR5 6000 memory. Okay. That's for the review. And they said we've tested 12 games and some without ray tracing and focused 1080p and 1440p resolutions. So that's what I usually focus on too. So now they said first up we have Resident Evil 4 at 1080p. We're looking at a surprisingly large 16% uplift for the 7600 XT over the standard 7600, making it 6% slower than the RTX 4060. This is significant improvement, and it appears extra VRAM is beneficial here. So let's see what they got cooking for Resident Evil 4 at 1080p. And it looks like they're doing it at graphics quality. And they say higher is better. Okay, so we'll get to the 1440p in a moment. It looks like they got the 7600 XT compared to, I'm just going to say, the 6650 XT, which the 6650 XT is got 101 on the highs and 92 on the lows. 7600 XT is right below that with a 1% difference on the high, but a 2% difference on the low. So 7600 XT, they marked it out to be 100 on the high and 89 on the low. And right below that is the Intel Arc A770 with 16 gigabytes of VRAM. That's at 94 on the high and 85 on the low. So looking at it, and what they're saying is on Resident Evil 1080p that the 7600 XT is right below the 6650 XT. Now, if I remember right, I think I said something about that on a video tour ago. That's about the way it's going to roll. And it looks like that I'm I'm a little bit getting it correct on this. Let's go ahead and move to the 1440p and see what they got cooking. Now, 1080p and 1440p is two different SKUs, but it looks like the 6650 XT took a back seat. Well, actually didn't take a back seat. Now, looking at it, they're even 7600 XT and the 6650 XT are even. 71 on the high and 61 on the low for both. That is amazing. And what took a back seat is the 4060 on 70 on the high and 60 on the low. So looks like the 4060, the non-TI, I was about to say the non-TI Super, but no, the non-TI took a back seat. But the 4060 Ti 8GB was up at 92 on the high and 80 on the low. So let's keep that in mind. For 1440p, that's not a bad result, especially at 71 on the high. That's not a bad result at all. Especially just being straight horsepower, just right down bound to the rasterization. That's not bad for the 7600 XT. So moving on down the road, let's see what we got cooking. Plague Tale Rec Room, 1080p. 7600 XT got 73 on the high and 69 on the low. That's not too bad because between the low and the highs, there's a small gap, not much. That means it's doing really good. Right below that is the 7600 at 71 on the high and 66 on the low. Now the 6650 XT takes the lead by 76 on the high and 66 on the low. So basically the low side, the 7600 took the lead by 3%, but on the high side, the 6650 XT took the lead by 3%. So it's a 3-and-3 kind of situation. And we say the 4060 is down there at the bottom on 66 on the high and 58 on the low. But the 4060 Ti 8GB is 91 on the high and 79 on the low. But price point wise, if I do remember right, that the price point wise between the 4060 Ti 8GB and the 7600 XT is like equal. So you might want to keep that in mind when, if you're thinking about going for this graphics card, it's kind of a cat in the bag right now. So we're looking at the 1440p on the Plague Tale Rec Room. 7600 XT is 52 on the high and 45 on the low, but 7600 is right below on its heels on 51 on the high and 44 on the low. 6650 XT is 56 on the high and 48 on the low. Looks like there's still a 3% gap in between the two. Now going to the 4060 Ti 8GB is 68 on the high and 58 on the low. Now we're building up to what our conclusion is going to be at the end, so do stay with me on this. You'll see where I'm going with this. So now Cyberpunk 2077 1080p on the high quality. It's going to be the 7600 XT. It's 83 on the high and 73 on the low. Now the 4060 is right below that, and that's 78 on the high and 69 on the low. But the 7700, there's like a wide gap between the 7600 and the 7600 XT, wide gap. Like the 7600 is 77 on the high and 68 on the low. We're looking at maybe a 7 to 10 point difference, 10% difference. But still, again, your 4060 Ti 8GB is 103 on the high and 80 on the low. Now, this is without ray tracing. This is like amazement right now. I'm pretty much amazed right now that the 4060 Ti 8GB is taking the lead that far over the 7600 XT. And the price point, at the end, what we'll do is we'll go to Amazon and we'll review the price point between the two, So this way you can see the difference and you can see the benchmark difference, and then you can make your decision of which way you want to go. So Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. The 7600 XT is 54 on the high and 46 on the low. Right above that is the ARC A770, 54 on the high and 47 on the low. And you know the price point on the A770 for Intel ARC. If you don't, we'll look that up too. But right on its heels is the 7600 at a 51 on the high and 43 on the low. Something to think about. And then go to the 4060 Ti, 8 gigabytes, is 63 on the high and 55 on the low. It's still a good 7 to 10%, maybe a little bit more. That's kind of estimating. It's an average in my mind right now because I'm not using a calculator, but I'm just averaging it in my mind. Okay, don't judge me because I use my mind for a calculator. Okay, Dying Light 2. Dying Light 2. Stay Human. DX11. 7600 XT is 96 on the high and 85 on the low. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. But if you go and you look at the 4060 Ti, 8 gigabyte, which is equal with the 16 gigabyte, they're both getting 117 on the high and they're getting 90 to 93 on the low. Now, that's 93 on the low, yeah. That's still amazing. And the ARC A770 16 gig is getting 103 on the high and 91 on the low. You know, that's kind of amazing me a little bit. But it looks like the 4060 overtakes the 7600 by small margin, by 2%, I would say. 2% on the high and 1% on the low. But still, 7600's not doing too bad. Moving on. Dying Light 2, Stay Human. DX11. 7600 XT is 63 on the high and 54 on the low. Right on its heels, within a 1% margin, would be the 7600. Now, right above that would be, looks like the 4060 took the lead by maybe 1 point on the high, even on the low. So, kind of makes you wonder sometimes a little bit. Is the 4060 good or bad? You know, 4060 is not a bad graphics card. Neither is the 7600 XT or the 7600. But it's just a matter of performance and the price to performance that you all are looking for. If you're going to get the right amount of price to performance, even though it's not a high-end card, it would be considered a low-end card. But you still wonder, is it going to play well when it comes to your gaming and everything else? Well, you know, when they slap 16 gigabytes of VRAM to it, that doesn't mean everything. Just to let you know that. Even the 4060 Ti 8 gigabyte on top, it's getting 78 on the high and 66 on the low. So, like I said, there's a big FPS difference between the 7600 XT and the 4060 Ti. I was about to say super, but it's not. So let's move on. Watchdog Legion. Let's see what we got. Well, we got the 7600 XT at 128 on the high and 102 on the low. Yeah, not too bad of a point difference, but it looks like it's keeping up there with the 3060 Ti and the 3070. But still, again, the 4060 Ti 8 gigabyte takes the lead with 140 on the high and 112 on the low. And that's the 8 gigabyte version, just to let you know. As far as the 4060, it's down there, but it's still over 100 FPS. Still doing not too bad. Neither is the 6650 XT. Like I said, and I'm going to say this. Well, I'll save my points till the end, but we'll just keep moving on. And it's looking good so far. I would say the 4070, but, since I've already mentioned the 4070 right here, if you can't see it, just let me know. Oh, we did it again. Look at that. See, I had to do that. Okay, I'm pointing right there again. 4070. And then when you go back to the action screen, 4070. So I do say that for a reason. And as the prices are slowly dropping on the 4070, you might want to wait a little bit to reconsider the fact that you might be able to get the 4070 for a lower price than $550. What if Nvidia decides to drop their price down to $500, equaling the same price as the 4060 Ti 16 gigabytes? You think that little 4 gigabytes going to make a difference? No. It's because the performance is between 23 and 27% higher on the 4070 compared to the 4060 Ti 16 gigabytes. So your 4070 is up there in, performance compared to that. Now, if they drop the 4070 down to $500, now I'm telling you, everybody's going to be buying it for the simple fact because of the performance. So it just takes Nvidia to drop that $50 off just to make it better. So, looking at this performance, it's not too bad. Low to mid end cards, it's not too bad. This is looking really good. If you're looking for a card, you can consider, and this is my opinion, you probably would consider the 7600 XT, but there's a caveat to that. You have to look in the fact of, and say in your mind, is the 4060 Ti 16 gigabytes for that extra little bit got a bigger bus than the 7600 XT? Or which way are they trading blows to become an equal card? But I can tell you the price is way different than the other one. You got what, 370? We'll look at the price point when we get there. Let's just move on. Let's go to the 1440p on Watch Dogs Legion. 7600 XT is 88 on the high and 73 on the low. And it looks like nipping at the heels is the 7600 with 83 on the high and 68 on the low. Now, when it comes to the 4060 Ti 8 gigabyte, close in price, it's 100 on the high and 83 on the low. So it looks like it's taking like an 18 to 20% lead. Moving on to Forza Horizon 5. It looks like the 7600 XT has got 114 on the high and 98 on the low. And it's keeping right up there above the 3060 Ti, which that had 106 on the high and 94 on the low. So, not too bad. 6700 XT had 117 on the high and 97 on the low, which puts it right in between the 3060 Ti and the 6700 XT for the Forza Horizon 5 at 1080p. Moving on down the road to 1440p. 7600 XT did 94 on the high and 80 on the low. Staying right there in between the 6700 XT and the 3060 Ti. Not too shabby. And then you go above and you're looking at the 4060 8 gigabyte, staying equal to the 4060 Ti 8 gigabyte, staying equal to the 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte. You can see it right on the chart. So, but it's still above about 107 on the high and 96 on the low for both of them. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, so you got you got what? $3.99 on one card, and never mind. We'll get to it when we do. So my thoughts are getting there. So stick with me. Okay, Total Warhammer 3, 7600 XT, 89 on the high and 72 on the low. Again, the 6700 XT is 97 on the high and 74 on the low. The 4060 is 87 on the high and 67 on the low. But looking up the scale, that you're looking at the 4060 Ti 8GB at 106 on the high and 79 on the low. Not too shabby. Total Warhammer 1440p Ultra Quality. 7600 XT is 55 on the high and 44 on the low. But 4060 takes the lead for 56 on the high and 43 on the low. And right underneath it, close to it, within the margin of 7% on the low, is the A770 16GB Intel Arc. And you got your 4060 Ti 8GB at 69 on the high and 52 on the low. Not too bad. Marvel Spider-Man Remastered. We got the 7600 XT at 129 on the high and 117 on the low. So if you look at it, it's not too bad. Look, I'm going to tell you, anything over 60 FPS is good. You know, no matter what you play. As long as you ain't getting stuttering on your screen and you're getting good gameplay, anything that's over 60 FPS is good. So don't take it wrong. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, that's bad. You know, no, don't say it's bad. It's not. I played many of games at 30 FPS and still didn't have stuttering or anything else. So it's not so much where the FPS lies. It's a matter of how your hardware is set up to match with your software. If you don't balance it, then you're going to have stuttering. So do keep that in mind. I did say that the 7600 XT was 129 on the high and 117 on the low. 6650 XT on its heels at 124 on the high and 109 on the low. Moving up to the 4060 Ti 8GB at 168 on the high and 130 on the low. Makes you think, though. Marvel Spider-Man Remastered 1440p, very high quality. We got the 7600 XT at 96 on the high and 86 on the low. Moving up to see and again, the Intel Arc A770 16GB at the 102 on the high and 91 on the low. Not too bad. 4060. The 4060 is 102 on the high and 94 on the low. Now, the low side, it's only by 3%. Not even that. Above the A770 16GB. But if you look at the top of the SKU, let's see where the 4060 Ti 8GB is 120 on the high and 103 on the low. Wow. So it looks like the 8GB, well, I'll give you my thoughts at the end. So you're gonna have to stick with me until the end. So Hogwarts Legacy 1080p ultra quality, 7600 XT, 66 on the high and 50 on the low. And if you look at the 4060 Ti 8GB, taking the lead at 78 on the high and 50 on the low. Let's move on down the road. 1440p ultra quality. 7600 XT is 53 on the high and 40 on the low. That's kind of a little bit of a spread between the lows and the highs. But it did push closer to the 4060 Ti 8 and 16 gigabyte, which were 57 on the high and 41 on the low. Not too shabby. Halo Infinite 7600 XT at 1080p, ultra quality, 83 on the high and 75 on the low. And looks like, again, the 4060 Ti 8 and 16 gigabytes are right up there between 109 and 110 on the high and 90 on the low. Not too shabby. Definitely not too shabby. And nipping at its heels is your 7600 at 81 on the high and 73 on the low. Like I said, a 2% difference between the two. So 1440p ultra quality, 7600 XT, 70 on the high and 56 on the low. 7600 within a margin on the high, within half to a 1% between the 7600 XT and the 7600 is like, 1%. I mean, half to 1%. That's kind of hard to have a margin like this. I mean, to have it equally right here, to have it equally at 1440p, on this game, you could say, yeah, if it's continuous, then, it's kind of iffy about the 7600 XT, because if the 7600 is keeping up with the 7600 XT, it's kind of iffy. So again, the 4060 Ti 8 gigabytes at 85 on the high and 67 on the low. It's definitely up there in numbers. Last of Us Part 1. It's at 7600. It's at the 7600 XT is at 67 on the high and 57 on the low. I'm sorry for all my little stutterings. I just got so much information. I'm just like trying to get it out to y'all. Just bear with me and follow along. We'll get there. But looking at, and this is the thing, this is the butt kicker of it all. Looking at the 8 gigabyte 4060 Ti, the 8 gigabyte, the 62 on the high and 41 on the low, looks like the 7600 XT took a turn and took the lead. But not on the 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte, though, because you got 81 on the high and 71 on the low. That's kind of interesting to see that much margin in between the 4060 Ti 8 gigabyte and the 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte. That's kind of, amazing. Last of Us Part 1, 1440p quality, ultra quality. The 7600 XT is 47 on the high and 39 on the low. Whoa. I don't know if y'all are seeing this, but, their highs and their lows are really, it's like a wide spread. Wow. It looks like the 3070, they're saying 51 on the high and 7 on the low. And then with the 3060 Ti is going from 49 on the high to 7 on the low. And the 4060 Ti 8 gigabyte is right there below the 7600 XT with 44 on the high and 5 FPS on the low. That's wow. That's widespread. The 7600, 42 on the high and 9 on the low. And you got all your SKUs down here. It just amazes me. But looking at the 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte taking the lead over the 7600 XT with 53 on the high and 44 on the low. I don't know. I'm going to have to check into that. That seems like it's questionable a little bit, but I would imagine they've done this test more than one time. Let's see. Then at 1440p, the 8 gigabyte cards are a stuttery mess in the game area we use for testing. The 7600 XT resolves this issue, and while the frame rates aren't outstanding, suboptimal we say, the game is certainly still playable at 47 FPS. And that's for The Last of Us Part 1. Hitman 3 1080p Ultra Quality. 7600 XT, 142 on the high and 133 on the low. And it looks like it's taking the lead over the 4060 Ti 16 and 8GB video cards, which they were at 141 on the high and 126 on the low. They're about even anyway, so, I'm not going to go around that fact. And it seems that the 7600 XT took a big turn, overtaking the 7600 with a wide margin. So, definitely good on those tests. Hitman 3 1440p Ultra Quality. 7600 XT is 91 on the high and 82 on the low. And 1440p, it looks like the 4060 Ti 8 and 16 gigabyte take the lead at 97 on the high and 88 on the low. Not too shabby. Hitman 3, total power consumption. They're doing a power consumption. Now, they're saying the 7600 XT did 316 on the high and 93 on the low. So their load amount of watts is 316 and their idle watts is 93. Wow. That's like, it brings it in question. Now they're saying that, the RTX 4070 was higher at 337 on the load power, and they're saying 107 on the idle power. That's their testing, but I'm going to tell you mine at the end, so you're going to have to wait for that. But looks like the 4060 is the one that has the optimal amount, from what their testing says, is that their load power is at 237 and their idle power is at 94. So, kind of brings in question. Now, Spider-Man Remastered, the total board power is at 318 on the high and idle on the low is 93. So y'all can see the testing. I'm just going to rip through here and do the 1080p game average and the 1440p game average, and then you can see what it's going on. Okay, when you kick in ray tracing, you're going to get a higher score. So if you're going to be on like your NVIDIA graphics cards, they're really going to take the lead on that. So we're just going to go through the game average to see what it's going to be like. Okay, game average. 7600 XT, 95 on the high, and this is 1080p after 12 games, and 82 on the low. Now, what takes the lead on that? If you look at it, the 4060 Ti 8GB is 111 on the high and 89 on the low. And right below that, within a 5% margin, is the 4060, and right below that, within probably 7 to 8% margin, is the 7600. So there's not too much room there just to think about it. So, on 1080p, that's not too bad, but I'll tell you what, being close to 100 FPS and hitting a low of around 80 FPS, that's not too bad. It's not, we got to think about, it's not too bad in the fact I'm going to give you my thoughts at the end. You're just going to have to wait for it. 1440p, 12 game average. We got 7600 XT at 67 on the high and 57 on the low. That's at 1440p. So, looking at that, and it's catching up with the 4060 Ti 8GB, which is at 79 on the high and 55 on the low. But right below that at 1440p, within probably a 3% margin, is the 7600. Wow. Okay. Now that we've seen all that, I'm going to conclude my thoughts. Okay. I'm going to give you my thoughts on this. Okay. First of all, before that, I want to thank TechSpot.com. Make sure you guys give them a thumbs up for all the hard work they did on doing these benchmarks. I know this might not be some of the benchmarks that you all would see like on videocards.com or WCCF Tech or whatever, reviewers or whatever. I picked them because, they seem to be close to the average of what's going on. And I weighed my options. And the thing is, if I can't get my hands on some cards to do these testing, to give you my facts, but I can make my opinions on the benchmarks that I do see. But I'll tell you what, give them a shout out. They did an awesome job, by the way. And this is my fact to opinion for the 7600 XT. Since AMD doesn't know who I am, and by the way, this video is uncut. It's as is. So I'm just going to add my little things to it, and then I'm going to push it to YouTube so you see what you see. You get what you get when it comes to my videos. If you don't like my videos, then don't watch them. If you do, then watch them. If you love how I do my videos, then subscribe. Do me a favor, help me get monetized, and let's go from there. Okay, 7600 XT, my thought. For a 128-bit bus and for 16 gigabytes of VRAM, and with the 7600 within 3% margin, and that's 8 gigabytes of VRAM. And looking at where the 4070 Ti, I was about to say Super. I said 4060 Ti. Oh, so many names and just... Okay. What we're going to need to do is we're going to need to take this another step. We need to take this another step. So we're going back to the action screen. Okay. Now, I'm going to type in Amazon. And we're going to go to Amazon. I'm using Amazon as the factuals because basically they keep up with the Joneses a little bit. Okay, so make sure you put in on the all button, you put in computers like I always do. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look up the 4060 Ti 8 gigabyte. Okay, so 4060 Ti 8 gigabyte, if you shop around for it, could be less than $400. Okay, now let's go to Amazon again. We're opening up a new screen. Let's click this to computers, so this way y'all see that it's not tainted. Let's go to what was it? Let's see. What was it? My bad. 7600 XT. 7600 XT. Okay, so we're looking at a price of, just to say off the top, $329. So that's like a $50 difference between the two. I don't need a calculator for that. It's like a $50 difference between the two. Well, if we do, well, let's do this. 384. I know you guys love the calculator. So we do 384 minus 329. $55 difference between the two, but you're looking at between 10 and 14% more performance for the 4060 Ti 8 gigabyte. But bad caveat is the 4060 Ti 8 gigabyte. This is an OC version. That's not bad. But difference is this is 16 gigabytes for the 7600 XT compared to 8 gigabytes for the 4060 Ti OC. That comes back to the same caveat, looking at, which one's going to be the better card, and that's something you have to think about. Which one's going to be the better card? Okay, it's either you're going to sacrifice one for the other. You're either going to sacrifice VRAM for performance, or you're going to sacrifice, performance for I already said that. Duh. Look, it's if you want to sacrifice a little bit of VRAM for performance, then go with the 4060 Ti 8 gigabyte. But it's only a $55 difference, $55 more dollars for getting 10 to 13% more. It's not bad when it comes to price and performance. Truthfully, it's not. But the only thing you're sacrificing is 8 gigabytes of VRAM. If the games you play, okay, this is another thing. The games you play go between 4 and 6 gigabytes of VRAM. Any consumer out there, then it's worth it to you. But as far as going forward, as new games progress, they're going to go up to 16 to 24 gigabytes of VRAM sooner or later, within within 2 to 5 years. It's going to be up to about 24 gigabytes of VRAM. Estimating, not saying it will be, just estimating from the rumors I hear. But you'll still be able to play your same games with the same amount of VRAM. It's not like they're going to actually take away your games, not unless they do, and you're on Steam and they take away those games and put something better in, and then it requires more VRAM. Then, that's going to make the difference. And then you're going to look at yourself like, well, I've just bought this card and now I'm suffering because I don't have the amount of VRAM I need for the game. But that's within 2 to 5 years. Say you bought the card now, and 5 years down the road, you say, okay, well, since, the 40 series, just as for say, let's say the 4090 came down to a price point, which I know it never will, came down to a price point of $699. You know what you're going to be doing? You're going to be going for the 4090, just for say. So, if you want something futuristic, then if you're just, playing light games and stuff like that, 7600 XT will be great for you because it'll give you the right amount of VRAM, but still they're sacrificing the bus for L2 cache, which is not a good thing, just for buffering. I mean, your game, you still got triple buffering on the Adrenaline program. You can still use triple buffering. So it's not the matter of the buffering. you know, as far as gameplay, you probably can get a great gameplay out of it. Especially having the RDNA 3, fluid motion frames, and all that, fake frames. Look, everybody can say fake frames. I don't care. I don't run it. I don't run any one of those anyway. I want to see the horsepower. I want to see the horsepower. I don't want to see anything dealing with ray tracing or anything else. I want to see the total horsepower of the GPU. So, just to let you know, that's what I look for. I don't play with ray tracing as much on my 4070. I could, if it's needed for the game. But if it's not, then I don't need it. So I still get this great amount of horsepower off of my 4070 that, it makes me happy. The games I play only go up to about 8 gigs of VRAM, so that the usage. So I still got 4 gigs to play with, so I don't need anything that goes up to 16 gigs. Like I said, it all goes by the games you play and what you're looking for. If you want to future-proof it or not, that's up to you. If you want a now kind of thing and then wait for another 5 years before you buy another GPU, that'll be up to you as well. All I can do is lead you to what's cooking, and you can make the decision if you want to buy it or not, if it's going to be better for you or not. Okay, I haven't tested yet the 7600 XT. I will one day when this channel grows and we get to where we get, something cooking and, get something solid going on here. Yeah, we will keep it going. Right now, I got to go by the income that I got to feed this channel, to get the parts I need, the parts I need to do these extraordinary builds that you all would love to see. So work with me, help me, and let's get some subscribers in here and build the channel so we can get to that spot that everybody else is at. Because you can't compare my channel to one of these reviewers that has 10 years compared to my 1.5 years. They have 10 years into building their YouTube channel. I don't. So help me get to that point, and then you'll see that everything is going to work out great, even greater than you think. You don't know what I have in mind and what I have cooking. So that's something to think about. I could have more things in my mind than you really know. But that's for in the future, and you got to stick around to find out. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on the 7600 XT. Final thought. If that's something you want to buy that's going to be low end for you, to a $300 to $350 card, then that's fine. You can buy that and be happy with it. But look at the price point. What if the price point comes down again for the 7800 XT? What if the price point comes down even more? What if, and this is a what if AMD decides to take the 7800 XT and takes off $100 to it and puts it on the market for you? That's a price point of being at around $400. And this being a $370 card for $30. In the future, you got something with almost close to double the performance when it comes to the 7600 XT and the 7800 XT. Keep that in mind. So I just leave you with that thought. I know your people in Discord are going to be like, I know y'all are going to be right there, but I'm just giving you my 2 cents on this. I haven't tested it yet. It's my opinion. It's not factual. All I'm doing is taking the test results I got from TechSpot.com, do my analysis on it, and give it to you all. And then in the future, I will have more updates on this if I get more information on it. So, but anyway, I'm going to get out of here.
And I hope you all have a great day. And if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, welcome to the family. Welcome to JJ's PC Builds. And my veteran subscribers, always, much love to you for all that you do, helping support the channel. But until the next time, and I mean the next time and the next video, this is JJ on JJ's PC Builds. We will see you on the next video. Oh, before I go, I have doctors coming up for this Monday and this Tuesday, and I will apologize to y'all, but I'm not going to have a video on Monday and Tuesday. I will try to pick it up on Wednesday. So we will see you on Wednesday.